And as an Auschwitz survivor, I am here to tell you that the worst prison is not the one the Nazis put me in. The worst prison is the one I built for myself. Although our lives have probably been very different, perhaps you know what I mean. Many of us experience feeling trapped in our minds. Our thoughts and beliefs determine and often limit how we feel, what we do, and what we think is possible.
And even you, who experienced and survived Auschwitz, who experienced and survived the Death March, all of which we'll talk about later, say we choose to be victims, that victimization is something that happens to us, but we choose to be victims.
Yes.
How so?
Yes, because I am not a victim. It's not my identity. It's what was done to me. And that is very important, that it's not my identity, that I'm a whole person who can have joy and passion today rather than living in a past and becoming, unfortunately, a prisoner and a hostage of the past. I would love to help you discover how to escape the concentration camp of your own mind and become the person you were meant to be. I would love to help you experience freedom from the past, freedom from failure and fears, freedom from anger and mistakes, freedom from regret and unresolved grief, and the freedom to enjoy the full, rich feast of life. We cannot choose to have a life free of hurt, but we can choose to be free to escape the past, no matter what befalls us, and to embrace the possible. I invite you to make the choice to be free.
Good evening. Good evening, everyone. I'm Rob Goldberg, CEO of the Buffalo Jewish Federation, and I'm so honored to welcome you to the extraordinary opportunity this evening to hear firsthand Dr. Edith Eva Eger's remarkable story. Tonight's International Holocaust Remembrance Day program commemorates the 76th anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz concentration and extermination camp, where 1.1 million people were murdered. For Jews all over the world, Yom HaShoah, the anniversary of the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising, which is observed after Passover, has been a day for commemorating the Holocaust since 1951. Some countries also hold their own Holocaust commemorations on other dates, but it is nonetheless an amazing accomplishment to have a worldwide secular day dedicated to remembering the victims of the Nazis and promoting Holocaust education. I want to extend a kol hakavod, all the honor, to my dear friend Ruth Devora Wallen, aka Darcy, who brought the idea of being in conversation with Dr. Eger to me many months ago at her Shabbos table. Ruth Devora and I have been friends since our days at Amherst High School here in Buffalo, and we both take great delight in supporting each other's endeavors. While each of us took unique Jewish journeys since high school, we both returned to Buffalo years ago when our aging parents needed our support. We both saw it as a gift and an honor to care for our parents. The Shatkin family is extraordinary and have been difference makers in Jewish Buffalo and the greater community for decades. I want to particularly thank Ruth Devora's sister, Cindy Oppenheimer, for all of her energy and support to make this evening possible. The main sponsor of tonight is the Tell Fund, which is part of the Foundation for Jewish Philanthropies here in Buffalo and was established by Ruth Devora and Cindy to honor their parents, Dr. and Mrs. Samuel Shatkin of blessed memory. Before I turn things over to Ruth Devora, aka Darcy, I want to thank members of my team for their roles in this evening's program: Elizabeth Schramm, Jill Kalm, Stacy Block, Mike Steckloff, Debbie Pavarsi, and Joan Kwiatkowski. And now it's my pleasure to turn the mic over to my dear friend, Ruth Devora.
Thank you so much, Rob. And thank you for your generous introduction. So there's a tradition to give blessing and thanks at the beginning of such a program. So first, I'd like to give thanks to Hashem, to God, who gives me the strength to take on these activities and programs and interests, and gives me the honor of meeting people as incredible as Dr. Eger and Katie Anderson, her very apt assistant. And in addition to the Federation staff that Rob mentioned, I want to thank my sister Cindy Oppenheimer, who supports all of my Tell Fund activities, both with moral and financial support, as well as getting us great advertising in the Jewish Journal of Western New York, and my husband Lou, who puts up with all of my stuff. Thanks again, Stacy Block. Rob thanked her, but thank you for helping us with the link and the landing page and more. She just notified me that we've got 619 registered participants from 543 households from 6 countries and 28 states. That's pretty awesome. So thank you for joining us, all of you. Thanks to Mike Steckloff, again, of CGEL, and Elizabeth Schramm of the Holocaust Resource Center, who are assisting us tonight with the technology. Elizabeth, along with my dear friend and capable Buffalo Federation CEO Rob, who just introduced me, they've been involved in this endeavor from the beginning, and so I thank them. Additional thanks go to Katie Zontek from the JCC Book and Arts Fair, and Brachalea Greenberg of the JDC Book Club, which by divine providence featured The Choice for its most recent book selection. L'chaim, don't worry, it's water. Thanks to Irv Levy of the Foundation for Jewish Philanthropies, Janine Allen, who helps me with our website and donations. Thanks to all of you who are joining us tonight, or whatever time zone you are in, or later on with the recording. As you may know, and Rob just told us, the Tell Fund was established in memory of our parents, Dr. and Mrs. Samuel Shatkin. And our mission is to provide Jewish educational and cultural programming and materials around Western New York. We've had great turnouts for our local events, but I hate to say, but due to COVID, by divine providence, and maybe Dr. Eger, our illustrious speaker, would say, look at the divine providence behind the darkness of COVID. We can reach hundreds, if not thousands, more people with her message through this virtual medium. And if you would like to pose a question, please put it in the comment section below, and Elizabeth will share them with me after the main portion of the program. If the questions have probably been answered or the duplicates, we'll probably not use them. But the fact is we've already had a huge amount of submissions. So that is going to go into the program for this evening. The other incredibly visible divine providence in my mind is that when I asked Katie, Dr. Eger's assistant, in September for the earliest time for our program with Dr. Eger, she said currently she's on a virtual book tour for The Gift. So God bless you, Dr. Eger. Although I was disappointed to wait all this time, Katie gave me the first date possible for us, and that was today, January 28th. What I did not realize, I was going to take any date, any time. People are asking me, why is it so late in Israel? I'm taking whatever Dr. Eger is giving. And when I contacted Elizabeth, she reminded me that that date is the day after Holocaust Remembrance Day. We didn't pick this date, God did. So I was introduced to Dr. Eger's book, The Choice, by my dear friend Cyril Deitch. soon after it came out, and reading The Choice spurred my quest to meet Dr. Eger, either on Skype or in person. And anybody who knows me knows I'll pursue such a goal doggedly. And since it was what I call BC, before COVID, and I was planning a Southern California trip anyway, so we set up a visit with Dr. Eger in person, and I brought my dear friend and West Coast colleague, Mashi Benzaken. And we had a wonderful afternoon with Dr. Eger. It was inspiring and endearing. And we ended up having lunch. We brought kosher lunch back, and it felt like we were schmoozing with our own Bubby, our own grandmother. So here's her formal introduction. A native of Hungary, Edith Eva Eger was just 16 years old in 1944 when she experienced one of the worst evils of human race has ever known. As a Jew living in Nazi-occupied Eastern Europe, she and her family were sent to Auschwitz, the heinous death camp. Her parents lost their lives in the atrocities there. She and her sister survived, even though they were subjected to horrible treatment by Dr. Joseph Mengele, and they survived the death march in Austria. In 1949, she and her young family moved to the United States. In 1969, she received her degree in psychology from the University of Texas, El Paso. She then pursued her doctoral internship at the William Beaumont Army Medical Center at Fort Bliss, Texas. She spent much of her professional time working with the members of military, helping them recover and cope with ongoing effects of PTSD. Dr. Eger has always found ways to use her personal experiences to inspire, educate, and help others. She earned her doctorate in psychology in '78 while raising a family. She's got two daughters, Marianne and Audrey, and a son named John. Their father and Dr. Eger's husband, Albert Bela Eger, was so happy because John would carry this famous name, Eger. You may know that there's a famous rabbi by the name of Rabbi Akiva Eger. Dr. Eger befriended Viktor Frankl, studied and received her PhD in clinical psych. She opened a therapy clinic in La Jolla. She was appointed to the UC San Diego staff and has since she's been educating the world. In 1990, she returned to Auschwitz, and in 2017, she went back and went to the Budapest Opera House with her dear friend and colleague, Philip Zimbardo. Currently, Dr. Eger is in clinical practice in La Jolla, California, where she facilitates transformation in her clients and students. So my addition to this bio, Dr. Eger, is please come in. I welcome you with your video and your beautiful face. Similar to Rabbi Akiva of the Talmud, with that name, the same name as your namesake, Rabbi Eger, your husband's namesake. So Rabbi Eger, he did a very special thing many years ago, and we're going to learn about it later. She had an award-winning book, The Choice, when she was 90. She's got an impressive list of admirers: Oprah, Desmond Tutu, Rangan Chatterjee, Brene Brown, Marie Forleo, and me. And so I'm honored and excited to welcome you, Dr. Eger. Meeting you in person and now a few times virtually, I'm so thrilled. And you might say I'm on shpilkas, as they say in Yiddish, and we're all in awe. And thank you very much for joining us tonight. So what I would like to do now is show the group what themes we're going to share tonight. And Dr. Eger, I'm going to play a few games with you, if you don't mind. We've got a little friendship now. We're going to play a couple games. So these are our themes for tonight. Edie and Torah. Edie has just natural Torah thoughts, that pearls of wisdom that come out. Psychological themes, because she is a psychologist. COVID and health. I think we're all curious about Dr. Eger's approach to COVID and health in general. How does a person live to 93? Edieisms?
I never felt younger.
Yeah, exactly.
I feel young. I feel much
Edieism, then
younger.
your wisdom, choice or consequences, and then Jungian word association. And then we're going to open it up for question and answer. So, Dr. Eger, is there something that you would like to just say as we open up?
I couldn't be feeling younger than I do now because I give up my need for other people's approval. I give up my need to please everyone, and most of all, give up perfectionism, because perfectionism leads to procrastination. I don't know if any of you procrastinate. I think you need to look at your perfectionism. But I love your enthusiasm. You're just so full of good juices. You're truly a woman of my kind of woman. You know, you never give up. You never ever give up.
Thank you very much.
I love to be with you. I love to be with you.
Well, we're going to continue after this event. It'll continue on. So the first topic that was in our list is Edie and Torah. You may not be aware, but your stuff sounds like Torah when it comes out of your mouth. So the first concept that I think is the most powerful concept when we think about you is a Kabbalistic concept, a Hasidic concept, Yisoran Ha'or Min HaChoshech, which means literally that there's an advantage of light that comes out of the darkness itself. And you've shown us that, finding the light from the darkness. Please share a little bit about that theme.
Yes. I think the more we suffer, the stronger we become. The more darkness I found in Auschwitz, the closer I felt to the Torah. And the Torah also says so many things, that we have the Shiva, and after 1 year, leave the dead alone, that we do not really know sometimes how to really live in the present, and recognizing that I can only touch you now. So I do live in the present and telling you there is one thing we can never ever change, and that's the past. I don't forget what happened to me. I do not overcome it. I went to have steak the other day, and I was walking on cobblestones. And believe me, I was triggered right away when children were calling us pigs. And I felt so sorry for those children that they were taught to hate me. So no, not forgetting, believe me, not overcoming, but to come to terms with it. And I call it my cherished wound, my cherished wound.
The light that came out of the darkness. Beautiful. Another thing is that we believe that the neshama, the soul, is a part of God himself.
Yeah.
And you refer to the soul a lot. And when that incident, and we'll probably refer to it again, when Magda hugged you and said, the spirit never dies.
Yes.
It seems like you knew that the soul was with you forever. Tell us about your understanding of the spirit, the soul, the neshama.
I think we're born with the spirit, and the spirit never dies. That is very true. That's how I entered Auschwitz. And we were completely naked, completely shaven. And my sister asked me, how do I look? And I had a choice then, as you have a choice now, whether you pay attention to what you lost or what is still here. And I remember telling Magda, you have beautiful eyes. And I didn't tell you when you had your hair all over the place. So before you say anything, I usually want to ask you to ask yourself, and Jewish people are very good at talking to themselves. Ask yourself, is it kind? Is it very important? Is it very necessary? Because the longer I live, the more I listen as compassionately as I can. And I say, thank you, and tell me more. And I don't ask, how are you? That's very stupid. People say, fine. No, I say, geez, good to see you. I missed you. I don't like to ask questions or give advice because I want people to recognize that everything in life is not a recovery, but a discovery. And what I discovered, that life is from inside out. And the ballet master who held me as a young girl told me, God built me in such a magnificent way that all my ecstasy comes from inside out. But I had no idea what the word ecstasy meant until I realized that my God was guiding me to turn hatred into pity.
Thank you. By the way,
People
ecstasy
was
means
God.
something different now. Ecstasy means
God
something
was
different now these days.
God was with me. And the Torah is so right that we must love ourselves. And
How did you know?
self-love
How did you know that was the next topic? There's a very famous Mishnah in Pirkei Avos. It says, "Im ein ani li mili." If I am not for myself, who will be for me? Said by Hillel. Go for it,
That's
because you've
lovely.
got books. You could write 20 books just on this.
Beautiful. If I'm not going to do it, who will? It's my responsibility. I owe it to my parents to celebrate the most beautiful gift of God is the memory. I don't run anymore from the past. I'm able to know now that I survived, so I can do everything in my power to see to it and let people know that unfortunately genocide is still with us, but never in a history of mankind such a scientific and systematic annihilation of people existed. When 15 highly educated people celebrated in the evening that they can put 30,000 Jews in the oven in one day, and I'm part of that final solution of Eichmann.
Crazy. So that kind of, that if I'm not for myself, who will be for me, moves into the next topic, which is Bishvili Nivra Es Ha'olam. It says that the world was created for me because each person is a unique individual. And our Rebbe, you've heard of the Lubavitcher Rebbe, he said, a birthday is the day that God decided that the world could not exist without you.
I love the Lubavitcher Rebbe. I think I could sit down with him and have a wonderful dialogue.
I bet.
To let everyone know that self-love is self-care. It's not narcissistic. He was a brilliant, wise man. I don't want to be smart. I want to be wise as I get older. And before I say something, I wonder if it is empowering or depleting.
Beautiful. So that moves right into the next thing. It's like you're a prophetess. You know what we're going to move into. I was about to think about the woman of valor, the Ashes Chayil. And yes, you say she's not a strong woman, but a woman of strength. Yes. She's the one making the decisions, even though she might make him feel like he's making the decisions. What's that about, Dr. Eger?
That is lovely. You have to watch Fiddler on a Roof when she doesn't have any ego needs. You know, in Auschwitz, we had cooperation, not competition or domination. All we had was each other then. And all we have is each other now. This precious guy is giving up time for me now.
Hello, see, love is still there.
Love is not what you feel. Love is what you do.
What you do. Thank you. Thank you.
So
So
I'm
now-
going to ask, yeah, because if a father is a role model to his children, how he is treating the children's mom, that's, see, children don't do what we say, they do what they see.
Absolutely. So now that
Yes.
you're going into psychological themes, see, you're a prophetess. So we're going to go into the psychological themes. You say that what you do, the work that you do, the beautiful healing work that you do, is a calling. And it's not a job. And I've heard you say, I'm not Humpty Dumpty, and I'm not going to put you back together again. Elaborate
That's
on
right. That's right. I don't ask, how are you? And I don't say, how can I help you? I say, how can I be useful to you? See? Because I want people to get rid of me. The quicker, the better. That they
I'm
can truly,
self-sufficient.
that they can really have self-love. They know right from wrong. They're not idealistic. They are realistic.
Beautiful.
It's okay to dream, but don't confuse a romanticism with realism.
Beautiful. So in the work that you and I both do, I know you do mindfulness and imagery and things. And I think about, as I was reviewing your stuff, I was thinking about how powerful you use imagery in your mind. For instance, you kept in your mind a resource when you were imagining you were dancing to Tchaikovsky, or you were imagining Eric's comments to you. So could you help us in difficult times? How would one use imagery? What would you do to develop that strong ability to resource yourself in the moment of trial?
I think there is a difference between reacting or responding. I think it's very important to recognize that Hans Selye, who got the Nobel Prize in stress studies, he said, anything stressful come to us, we have two automatic emotions, we either fight or flee. And that didn't work in Auschwitz, because if you touched the guards, you were shot.
There was nowhere to go.
You tried to flee and to touch the barbed wires, you were electrocuted. And that's why it's important, before you say anything, to think about the consequences. Because when you are a child, you just do what you feel like. You don't care about the consequences. If you ask a child, why do you do that? A child would say, because I feel like it. As an adult, I still feel like it, but I don't act upon it unless it is in my best interest. So you want to be a good mommy to you, the good mommy who lets you know that you learn from this. And guilt has to do with the past. And you can say to yourself, if I knew then what I know now, I would have done things very differently. My parents had tickets to come to America and they didn't use it because we didn't know what's going to happen next. And that's not a good feeling, because I know when we took a shower in Auschwitz, we didn't know whether gas or water is going to come out. It's very, very difficult times that we are living right here, right now.
That brings us to health.
And all we have was each other. All we have is each other now.
And it's
you're the one.
Sorry. There's a lag.
I love your attitude. I love your hope in hopelessness. I love never to give up ever, because our ancestors didn't have it as good as we do, and they never gave up. And we carry that blood. I'm very proud to be a Jew.
You are. You're a good representative.
I'm extremely proud. And I love the Chabad. We have a love affair. I love the people who who helped everybody all the time, regardless of anything. And I have a son who was born, and my husband was so proud that he's going to carry the Rabbi Akiva Eger. But he didn't develop the way my daughters did. He didn't sit up, he didn't walk, he didn't talk. And I was told by 5 doctors in Texas in 1960, they're going to prepare me to send my son to a school for retarded children. We don't use that word anymore. So I went up to Baltimore. I went to Johns Hopkins. A beautiful neurologist by the name of Dr. Clark told me that my son looks retarded, but he's not. And he's going to be what I make of him. Imagine I'm shaking there. Is that he's going to need speech therapy, occupational therapy. So I went home. I dropped out of school. And my son John graduated as a top 10 student from the University of Texas.
Well, it's what you make of it, right? What
You got to question authority. Never blindly adhere to authority. Now the rabbi is something else. You know, the rabbi is a tzaddik. He has a way to communicate to us.
You're talking about the Lubavitcher Rebbe, not Joe Average, not a regular rabbi necessarily.
I think the rabbis I met are wonderful role models, and they don't criticize, and they're wise. You want to hear something wise? The rabbi sees a couple, and the couple said that the house is very small, and the parents moved in, and it's really impossible. And the rabbi said, "Where are the animals?" "In the barn." "I want you to bring in the animals, you know that, and come back in a month." They come back in a month. "So how is it?" "Oh, it's terrible, Rabbi. It's terrible. I want you to put the animals back in the barn and come back in a month." They come back in a month. "How is it?" "It's wonderful." So sometimes things get worse before they get better. Sometimes we don't appreciate what we have until we lose it. I always go to the restaurant and order exactly what I'm going to eat. And if you don't finish yours, I'm going to eat it or take it home. It pains me to throw out even a piece of bread. Yeah.
So you were talking about rabbis. Did you know that Rabbi Akiva Eger staved off an epidemic? Talking about COVID and health. Did you know this story?
Oh my God.
In 1831, he was consulted by the Prussian government about a cholera epidemic, and he helped them develop safety guidelines. You're not going to believe what things. I'm just going to mention a few of them. So he barred large gatherings. They could only fill a portion of the seating. Each group should daven in separate settings of maximum of 15 people. They should maintain crowd control, get a guard if necessary. He advocated hand washing and cleanliness, social distancing, and short services. Reduced it. It sounds like 2021 to me. So that is Bela's Rabbi Eger.
And it's one thing, one thing that happened in Poland, children were not allowed to go to Polish schools, and they put people in a ghetto. And there was Sholem Aleichem, the most wonderful humor. You want to hear one of them? "Why is the ocean water so salty?" "Because of all the herrings in it." They didn't use any 4-letter words or anything. They were not smart. They were wise,
Yeah,
I do love
sense
headaches.
of humor. So tell us a little bit about your health approach to COVID and how are you staying? I understand that Katie, your assistant, isn't with you this week because of quarantining. So how are you managing with the social distancing and everything? It's got to be complex.
It is complex. I get up 6 o'clock. I use a machine. I call it my shake and bake. That helps my breathing. I have a bad scoliosis. I was beaten very severely. So it's all maintenance. It's all maintenance. I eat carefully. I eat very carefully. I eat like a king for breakfast, like a prince for lunch, and like a pauper in the evening. You know what I'm going to have for dinner tonight?
What you gonna have?
I'm going to have sushi. And
Oh, that sounds
sashimi.
good. That's what we had together.
That's I like sashimi.
You're eating healthy, you're sleeping, you're exercising, you're keeping.
Yes, have a balance between working, loving, and playing.
Okay.
Don't forget the playing.
Well, what about
That's what we're doing now. You and I are playing.
And Dr. Eger, when we met a week and a half ago, you had just gotten your vaccine.
Yes, I got one. I get the second one next week.
It should be in a good time. You should feel.
I'm okay.
So now we're going to go on to a game. We're going to play the Edieisms game. A couple months ago, you told me that your daughter coined a term, Edieisms. So for some fun, you're going to fill in the blank. So just interrupt me. This is a very Jewish thing to do, okay? You can't heal what you
heal.
You can't heal
what you don't feel.
So what does that mean? Explain that to us.
It means that what comes out of your body doesn't make you ill. What stays in there does. So it's very important that the opposite of depression is expression, that you get it out, that you form the group and you study the Torah and you have your secrets, and then the secret has you. And that's why it's very important to have the grieving, feeling, and healing. You cannot heal what you don't feel. And we Jewish people cry a lot. And it's wonderful because then we can say, I had a good cry and I feel better. When the children come, we cry. When the children leave, we cry. But in the car, I want you to scream, cry, and then laugh like a hyena, and you're going to feel better.
Especially
because otherwise that anger settles in your rib cage and your body talks to you and the body never lies.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you can get headaches, tummy aches.
It comes out in the body somehow.
The body talks to you and the body never lies.
It's a book.
Mm-hmm.
So
yes.
How about don't cover garlic
with chocolate or paprika? Yeah.
So what does that mean to you? What does that explain?
You cannot love unless you go through the rage. You got to go through the rage.
Let it express itself, and then you can put the chocolate on.
Because anger, you either vent it, suppress it, which I did, and I like to dissolve it.
Right.
Because once you're angry, you have other emotions underneath of anger. And I call it a lot of fear, a lot of pain, a lot of frustration. So that's the work I do, the grieving, the feeling, and the healing. And I have yet to arrive. I'm still in a process of becoming And one of the most difficult challenges for me is to forgive myself that I survived.
It took you a long time to accept certain things. You say that you didn't even go to your graduation.
Exactly. I graduated cum laude. I was told where to pick up my cap and gown, and I never showed up because I said to myself, yeah, I have no right to be here.
But you've certainly transcended that one with your two books in a couple of years.
Yeah.
Fabulous.
Yeah, I tell you, I had two paraplegics when I began to work with PTSD, and one of them was a scream and blame God and country, and the other one said to me, you know, Doc, I am in a wheelchair, and God gave me a second chance in life. And I can see my children's eyes closer, and I can see the flowers. And I'm there wearing a white coat and says, Dr. Eger, Department of Psychiatry. And I feel terrible.
Like nothing.
I feel like a fake, and I feel like I cannot take care of them because I have not gone and taken care of that little girl inside me. And that's when I decided to go back to Auschwitz. So you got to revisit the places where you've been. And I asked Magda, and she told me I'm an idiot, just like that. She told me I'm a masochist. What's the matter with me? Didn't I have enough? And that's the way it went. So Magda does it her way.
She missed out on the growth.
My way.
You did
so
it.
Who's right? I'm only right for me. I cannot be right for anyone else.
Exactly. And you say and said before, I'm not a shrink.
I'm a stretch. Yeah.
You're a stretch. So
I stretch your comfort zone. So anything you do now, try something different tomorrow. If you go the front door, you try the side door or whatever. If you take a shower in the morning, take it at night, but do something that you have previously avoided. Maybe make a little Hungarian food.
Yeah.
You make a little palacinta, because I did that with my daughter, and we sent it to Jerusalem, and they served it in Jerusalem. You may be able to find it, how it went, because my daughter and I are writing a book on recipes.
I heard about that. You can do good goulash?
Yet. The seke goulash, yeah. Yes.
Chicken paprikash?
The chicken paprikash, yes. And my daughter loves, I make pasta with raw. It's like you make latkes, but I make it like a spätzle, like little dumplings.
Sounds
with
yummy.
Sauerkraut. With
Sounds
sauerkraut. It's very good, very good.
I look forward to the cookbook. Okay. Another Edism? Are you up to another one?
Pardon me?
You're up to another Edism?
The other Edism,
how about this? They give you the name and then you play
the game. My mother told me, I'm glad you have brains because you have no looks.
It's a horrible thing to hear.
Well, I became a very educated, very erudite person. I studied the interpretation of dreams by Freud when I was 14. I had my own book club. I came to America penniless. I graduated with honors because I was given by my mother the way she told me, and I believed it, and it didn't hurt me any at all. So I don't have time to be angry at my mom. She probably did the best she could with the information she had. I don't have time to hate, because if I would still be a prisoner. And that's why it's very, very wonderful to be Jewish, that you somehow can take stock of your life and ask yourself, as I live my life, do I feel soft and warm or cold and stiff? Take your temperature every day and say to yourself, is this going to empower me or deplete me?
Beautiful.
So it's very important to be an adult, because children blame and adults look at things as they are, and they look for problem solving and look the ways not to revolve, but to evolve. Just like the butterfly, you got to let go. Let go of the need for approval of other people. It's okay, you can call me any names, and I'm going to say thank you for your opinion. And that's what I teach children in school. Because the bully is going to say, you are that and you are that. And the minute you hear you say to yourself, I'm going to be dumbed-down. And the longer they talk, the more relaxed I become. And then you say, thank you for your opinion.
I'm not going there,
Because
right?
it takes two to fight, and it takes one to stop it.
I remember that story about that 14-year-old delinquent who was sent to you by the courts, and he was
That's
very
right. The
anti-Semitic.
white supremacy guy.
Share
And
that
then
story a little bit about that, because you really showed a lot of that restraint that you're talking about.
yeah, that was very, very difficult, because he came in and he told me he's a boot boy. I know nothing about boots, so I just acknowledged it. But then he got up and he put his elbow on my desk and said the following, I quote, "Hey, Doc, it's time for America to be white again. And I'm going to kill all the Jews and all the, using the N-word, and all the Mexicans and all the Chincos." And I believe that people don't come to me, they're sent to me. And the most obnoxious person is my best teacher. So I go to God and I say, God, what is the meaning of this? And God said to me, find the bigot in you. And I said, God, that's impossible. I came to America in 1969. I worked in a factory doing piecework, fast. And I go to the bathroom. One of them said colored. I joined the NAAPC. I marched with Martin Luther King. It was June 1963 with the mamas and the papas singing "We Shall Overcome." So you see again, we want to be sure that we learn from each other. And yes, find the Hitler within us and find the beautiful, loving God that put me here for a purpose. My God, I think, was able to help me to look at life from inside out rather than waiting for someone to come and make me happy. There was a girl from Yugoslavia and she loved her country and I loved my country. But she told me we're going to be liberated by Christmas, and Christmas came and went and she died the next day. It's very important to think about your thinking, because what you think, you create. See, nobody makes me happy. I make me happy. And I think very important to recognize that you got to think about your thinking and pay attention what you're paying attention to. Any behavior you pay attention to, you reinforce that very behavior.
What you think about, you bring about.
Yeah, exactly. So if you maybe tell me that I want to lose weight, and I said, it's okay, I'm going to give you a calorie book and so forth, so on. And then you come to me and say, Edie, I know all that, but I'm totally addicted to the Hungarian 7-layer chocolate cake. I'm just totally addicted to it. And I'm going to tell you that none of the positive thinking does any good unless it's followed with a positive action. So if you come in next time and you tell me, you know what, Edie, I didn't put sugar in my cappuccino this morning. Now I know.
Then you were a stretch. You stretch them a step.
And then we say, yes, what about having a notebook? And then you get up in the morning, you plan your day, and the evening, you feel satisfied because the whole life is just one day.
Beautiful.
Every moment is precious. I don't take anything for granted. I'm just getting more and more, hopefully, a good role model to the young people. That is really important, that I say what I live. So this is my card where I have 5 of my great-grandchildren. Is that, can you see?
Beautiful.
I'm holding 2 little boys. They are amazing.
What nachas.
Yeah.
Is that the one who created Edieisms?
Oh, well, they are, I holding them. Actually, it's in my daughter's home.
A great picture.
I really don't do much of that unless people ask me, or they read my book and say, what did you mean by this? What did you mean by that? And I say, I tell you what happened. For many years, people told me to write a book. And I would say, I have nothing to say. I have nothing to say. And then Philip Zimbardo said, I tell you what, Edie, the people who survived and famous are all men. We need a female voice. So the choice is really a female voice of Viktor Frankl.
Beautiful.
But I'm not Viktor Frankl because he was an MD in his 30s in Auschwitz, and I was 16 in love. And we were Betar, and we were going to go to Palestine and fight. And this is my boyfriend, and he was killed the day before liberation.
That was Eric.
That's Eric, yeah.
So
we were Zionists, very, very strong Zionists.
You had a plan. You guys had a plan to really.
We really had a goal. And it's good to have a goal, but also pay attention what you focus on, because what you focus on will hopefully come closer to your goals. It's in alignment. So it's very good to think about your thinking, that you have a goal, I call it an arrow, and you follow that arrow.
So we're going to wrap up with the main part, and then we're going to hear some questions that were sent before and some questions from the audience now. But I'd like to hear a little bit about how you connected with Viktor Frankl and some of the most important things that you find you gained from Viktor Frankl and that connection with him. Because
someone gave me a book in a class at the university in Texas, and I took the book home and I opened it and I said, oh my God, have you ever read a book that you wanted to write 10 more pages? I didn't have the verbal capacity. So I went underground because I didn't want people to feel sorry for me. But he gave me that verbal capacity. So I immediately wrote an article, Viktor Frankl and me, the little old me, and someone sent it to him. And he called me and wanted to meet me in San Diego, where he was teaching at the university. And that's how I became a logotherapist. And that's how he became really colleagues. And I did the keynote address for his 90th birthday. And I am just so very grateful
How beautiful.
because Viktor Frankl gave me the ability to start to tell my story and let people know what happens when good people do bad things.
So you're his female voice now. You're carrying on his message.
I think I do. I think I do. I think it was Bashad for me to have a mentor and a colleague, and I was able to somehow learn how to guide people to find meaning and purpose in their existence. Just like Thelema was saying, the wonderful people that we stand on their shoulders, and then your children will stand on your shoulder and see further, because that's what we want. We want them to really build their own ways. And so I think it's very important to study parenting and see that you become a good parent to you, a good mommy to you. You know, my mother made a holla. I will never, ever forget the way she did. It was an art piece. I could do a ballet on my mother doing the holla on Friday afternoon. The whole house, you can smell it, you can taste it. I never throw out a piece of bread. You know, I still have my holla from last Friday. I'm gonna eat up the rest of it, but I tell you, my mom created magic in that kitchen, and she had a goose. You're gonna read it in the next. My mother had a goose, and she fed that goose, and then we had the goose liver. And my mother could make 6 meals out of a chicken. She fed the chicken neck. It was wonderful. And then Saturday she would cut it. It was wonderful.
So that'll have to go into your cookbook with your daughter. Her dishes, some of her dishes.
Yes, my daughter is a brilliant psychologist, and she also is a sports psychologist. She consults with NFL in New York, and her husband got the Nobel Prize in 2003 in economics. So if you're a firstborn child, I did research, most of our Nobel Prize winners are Jewish.
Wow.
And firstborn. Now, if you're a firstborn and you marry a firstborn, you're going to have power struggle because you have 2 bosses. I don't know who is, are you a firstborn child or middle child? Middle children want everybody to get along with everybody else. And young people we call charming manipulators. I don't know if any of it fits to any of you who are listening, but you know, you can always change. And you want to ask yourself, what am I holding on to? And what am I willing to let go of? Because my definition of love is the ability to let go.
Beautiful, beautiful. So I have some questions from the audience. So the first one is, on page 156 of the choice, you say that you would want to write 10 pages for each page of Viktor Frankl's book. So this person's saying, what empowered you to write about after reading his book that wasn't included in the choice? What might you have included? Or maybe that'll be in the next book.
I think my God is here in me. And I know that I like to respond rather than react. And if it was meant to be, I'm going to hear it more than once. And I better pay attention. But I'm paying attention to. Any behavior you pay attention to, you reinforce that behavior. So very important for you to become your own good parent, your own good therapist. And I like to call myself a guide. I am comfortable with that. But I don't therapize too much. I think people who come to see me, they either have something what they don't want, or they want something what they don't have. Make it simple. What's missing? And you know that you don't have to make it complicated. Just most people I see are hungry for affection, attention, approval. So maybe this is the time when you are pregnant and you're going to give birth to the you that was meant to be. Because one of the things I ask you, when did your childhood end? And if you're a child of a survivor, then you became the parent to your parents. You took them to the grocery store and you introduced peanut butter and whatever. We never had peanut butter or tuna fish. I never saw it. And so the child goes to school, and one of my patients came home and told his mother that he wants the same lunch his friend Harry had. He had 2 white bread with mayonnaise and bologna. He had a Kaiser roll with a roast beef, but he didn't want that. He wanted to be like his friend. So sometimes children have a problem with loyalty when they come here because they want to fit in, and many times they don't know who to please and how to adjust. So I think immigrants are beautifully coming to America, because without Einstein, we wouldn't be today where.
Probably
I
not.
think Einstein saved America from Hitler. Yes.
That's another book. Someone's
Yes.
asking, what can you tell us about dealing with physical ailments as you age? And how do you find joy in the day-to-day with chronic issues, chronic ailments?
The love and joy, I think we're born with. Love, again, is not what I feel, it's what I do. Is how do I commit myself for the betterment of mankind? How do I take care of others when I'm capable and they are not doing something? I think it's very important to live a life that gives you meaning and purpose. And that's why I survived because when I was liberated, I was very suicidal, and my parents didn't come back. And God told me, if you will die right now, if you die right now, you're never going to find out what happens. And I want you to be for something rather than against. And you're that kind of a person. You stand up in any place, you open the door anywhere, and sunshine comes in.
We
That's you.
don't need to publicize that.
Yes.
Thank you.
You have an amazing,
Thank
it's infectious. Yeah, it's infectious. It's wonderful. I am so happy to get to know you. We're going to do more things together.
We will. We will do more things.
Yeah, we must. Yes.
Can I ask a couple more questions from the audience?
And I'm going to come to see you the minute I can get on that plane.
Okay.
I'm going to come and show up and do the high kick. I can do the high kick.
Okay, we'll do the high kick. Absolutely. You did that
Yeah.
for Mashi and me when we were there. So,
Yeah, you can do it now.
Okay. Before you leave, before we close, would
Somebody do that?
someone is asking, can you talk about the role of music and dance in your life? I mean, did anything continue later on?
Young people call my music elevator music or supermarket music, because I was liberated by the 71st Infantry, and I became in love with the big band music. And children call it supermarket music. That's okay. But I love the big band, and I love to dance.
It has a great association.
I love to dance. And I think it's important to dance with the rhythm that you can do it. I mean, I cannot turn around many times. I get dizzy. But the person that I dance with asked me, is it a samba? Is it a rumba? What is this or that? And you know what? He only knows one thing, one way. It doesn't matter how you call it. You go 1, 2, 3, turn. 1, 2, 3. So,
You move.
there is one thing on the dance floor. The man is the boss. We do it with high heels and backwards, as they say. But I still love to dance. I still love the music of any kind. My sister Clara was a child prodigy in violin. She played the Mendelssohn Violin Concerto when she was 5 years old. She ended up in Sydney. I know the Sydney Opera House from inside out. I used to go to the rehearsals with her. That was Clara. And Clara was already in the camp when her Christian professor smuggled her out and hid her until the end of the war. And I gave the keynote address in New Zealand in 1985, celebrating the righteous Gentiles.
Wow.
The people. And I read at the New York Times a while ago, a woman died in Germany, and someone asked her, why did you risk your life to save Jewish lives? And she said, my father told me that's the right thing to do. So you see, one of the most largest Jewish population in Europe today is in Germany, and my book became #1. I tell you, that's a good revenge to Hitler. I have now 4 generations. I have 3 children, 5 grandchildren. I have 7 great grandchildren, and
that's your revenge.
That's the best revenge. Revenge actually just give you a very temporary satisfaction. You know what? I tell children to watch the movie called The Karate Kid. Remember? Yeah. Yeah,
Wax on, wax off.
yeah.
So somebody's asking, what could we do to make it mandatory for the Holocaust to be studied in school? It's only mandatory in 16 states, this person is asking.
I would very much like Elie Wiesel's book to be read, but my book alongside of that, so the children would know that I'm not a victim. It's not my identity. It's what was done to me. I was victimized,
Yes.
but I'm not a victim.
So it sounds like this person wants to know what she could do or he could do to get it into
Just love yourself, get rid of guilt, and get rid of worry. Worry is in the future, and we never worry about good things happening. Get rid of what if this happens? What if that happens? Well, you know, usually you may come true what you fear. It's called the negative self-fulfilling prophecy. A woman came to me, Edie, I need a man. And I said, you know what, if I were a man, I would run from you. No, don't wait for anyone to make you happy. I feel younger now than I did 50 years ago. And people ask me, did you love your husband? And I said, I was very hungry. I was very lonely. And I was very skinny. And somebody bought me Hungarian salami. And then say, but you went back. No, I didn't go back. I was a woman to a man, not a child to a parent or a parent to a child.
You
It's
didn't go
very
back,
important.
you went forward. You went forward to a new type of relationship.
Yeah. I grew up. It had nothing to do with my husband. He was a kind, good man. I was his whole life. And but I didn't have an Edith Eger to go to do the grieving and the feeling and the healing. So that's why it's so important that we go through life, the ages and the stages. I was professor teaching Piaget, is a very good person to study about the ages and stages, to be childlike, but not childish.
Beautiful.
No freedom without responsibility. So if someone wants something, you say, what's in it for me? And you learn two things. You learn to negotiate and compromise. And that's what good couples do when I teach them, that they learn to negotiate and compromise.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Mhm.
So there's another question. Somebody's asking, what experiences led you? We know why you were the ballerina of Auschwitz, because you had to dance in front of Mengele, but what led you from those experiences to become a psychologist later in life?
I wanted to know, I just wanted to know more about human behavior. I also know that this person comes to me and said, you know, I was sexually abused, but I cannot tell you because you were in Auschwitz. And my answer is, I knew the enemy, you didn't. So let's not compare. So the two questions is, when did your childhood end? It's not the sex, it's the humiliation. It's being debased into an object. Nothing to do with sex. That has control and power. And 1 out of 3 girls in America and 1 out of 7 boys are molested. Lately, I didn't read the numbers yet. And it's happening in families, it's happening. So the second question is, would you like to be married to you? You know that. So you can think about it. And I hope that you love you. Again, self-love is where everything begins. You were born into love and joy, hopefully. And that love is contagious. And so my husband and I would fix breakfast to each other and bring it to bed and these kinds of things that you can also do something. I was in Texas and I was invited to do a keynote address for dentists. And I told my husband to wear something Texasy because they told me that we're gonna do, excuse me, shit-kicking music. So I asked him to do that. Oh, those Texans, and I didn't like it at all. But he came, and he was, and I went home, and I did not really like him being prejudiced. Prejudice means to prejudge, actually. And he knew it, and it was his turn to bring me breakfast. And he brought me breakfast with no clothes on and a big Texas hat. He's you're Texas. So, when you're married, you can do all kinds of loving ways to do something. My husband loved buying me papayas and feed me papayas. And my daughter went to the University of Texas and came home, and she told us that she's a communist. She didn't know a thing about communism. I was teaching it. I lived it. Anyway, my husband is on bed feeding me papaya. She comes in, she says, "Mother, you're disgusting." You know why? Because she thought that I don't know how to change a tire, that I wait for somebody to change my tire. Again, today she won't do that. That was a long, long time ago. But your children many times do many things in many, many ways that you wouldn't do that. But I don't think anybody grows on criticism.
No,
You don't say to your child, you're a pretty beautiful girl, but you're fat, but you're pimply. Don't say but, just get rid of the but. Yes, and I like unconditional, positive regard that I like to give to everyone. And I did that to this young boy because if I would have reacted, I would have dragged that boy into the corner. I would step on him and I would tell him, "How dare you talk like that?" My parents went to the gas chamber. But you see, I went to God, and then I created an atmosphere that he could feel any feelings without the fear of being judged. And I say that a million times, 3 words, tell me more. Love is time, Time, time. And that's what you do. You spend time allowing people to feel any feelings. And it's okay for us to hopefully never, ever forget or fight the past. Because that's one thing we cannot change is the past. So I'm very proudly telling you that I love the celebration of the Yom HaShoah. And hopefully I will be with you next year and wherever it is.
In Jerusalem.
Yeah.
Do you have a moment for another couple more questions? People are asking if you're open to it. Do you have a few moments more?
A few moments, yes. I'm expecting, but
Your sushi. You got to get your sushi.
they're going to bring it to me, and I hope the front door will be open. But what would you say?
Somebody was just asking about Israel. Did you regret not moving to Israel? And someone asked
yes, in many ways, today, but I was told by my best friend not to come to Israel because they were in the desert, living in a tent. And she told me, if you can take your child to America, do that. And I listened to my friend. And that's what I did. And we came to America penniless. We sent out a whole box. My husband was going to open up a factory. And I let it go. And I told my husband, you can go. You can go. You can go. So he went out the following evening and he heard his name being called. And then he came back. But we ended up at the Rothschild Hospital that is supported by the American Jewish people.
Wow.
American Jewish people are givers. And when I was in Miami talking to the community there, I told them where their money is maybe now helping a young mother like me. I sure got a nice standing ovation because, see, it is a place, if you go to Vienna, that gave me a home, that gave me food, that gave me your children's clothes. And I was in Vienna waiting to come to America in 1969 and see that in the bathroom, one of them said colored. So I discovered that there is prejudice.
Prejudice here even.
Yes, yeah. It was very painful after Nazi Germany and communist Russia. But I'm happy that now the largest Jewish population in Europe lives in Germany. So that's important to really acknowledge what is and to be for something and to meet again, because there is healing in meeting.
You got it. Anyway,
You know,
thank you
Martin
very much.
Buber,
Thank you.
I'm just going to say it very quickly. Martin Buber was a wonderful man. And he was on stage selling his book, and a young man came by and wanted to have some time with him. And he brushed the man aside. Can't you see? I'm busy. And the young man went home and took a revolver and took his life. Martin Buber, for many, many, many times, I don't know how many years went by, and he came up with his theory, the I and thou. And that's how I like to treat you tonight, the I and thou, because there'll never be another night like this. We're making memories right now, right here. And so I want to say shalom.
Thank you. Shalom to
And I
you.
want to
And we should be able to gather again for many healthy, happy years. You should be able to come out with cookbooks galore and
We're going to do that.
galore. But somebody's asking, and I would like to remind you, could you do a little high kick, or is that asking too much?
Let me see.
You may need to move. Oh, you got it. Woohoo! Thank you very much, Dr.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a great night. Have a good sushi.
Same to you, honey. Shalom.
Shalom. Bye, everybody. Thank you very much for joining. If you didn't get a chance to give a donation, please feel free to give a donation to the TEL Fund so we can continue making programs like these. And thank you very much. It was the largest crowd ever for one of the Federation's Zoom events. We were going to do it on Zoom, but we exceeded the size of the classroom twice, a 300-person classroom, a 500-person classroom. So thank you very much for joining us tonight, and hopefully we'll see you for another event. Bye-bye.
Moshiach, v'viyasa Moshiach ani ma'amin, v'beviyah v'basa Moshiach, v'viyasa Moshiach ani ma'amin, v'yani ma'amin, v'yani ma'amin, ani ma'amin, v'beyeminu shelaymo, ayoy beviyas, v'yamoshiach, v'viyasa Moshiach ani ma'amin, v'yafavalpi שישמע מפריה ויהי עם כל זה אני מאמין ויאף על פי שישמע מפריה ויהי עם כל זה אני מאמין בכל יום שיבוא, בכל יום שיבוא, ויאף על פי שישמח יהי כל זה, בכל יום שיבוא, בכל יום שיבוא, ויאף שישמח עם כל זה, אחכי לו, יחכי לו, בכל יום שיבוא, בכל יום
And as an Auschwitz survivor, I am here to tell you that the worst prison is not the one the Nazis put me in. The worst prison is the one I built for myself. Although our lives have probably been very different, perhaps you know what I mean. Many of us experience feeling trapped in our minds. Our thoughts and beliefs determine and often limit how we feel, what we do, and what we think is possible.
And even you who experienced and survived Auschwitz, who experienced and survived the Death March, all of which we'll talk about later, say, we choose to be victims, that victimization is something that happens to us, but we choose to be victims.
Yes.
How so?
Yes, because I am not a victim. It's not my identity. It's what was done to me. And that is very important, that it's not my identity, that I'm a whole person who can have joy and passion today rather than living in a past and becoming, unfortunately, a prisoner and a hostage of the past. I would love to help you discover how to escape the concentration camp of your own mind and become the person you were meant to be. I would love to help you experience freedom from the past, freedom from failure and fears, freedom from anger and mistakes, freedom from regret and unresolved grief, and the freedom to enjoy the full, rich feast of life. We cannot choose to have a life free of hurt, but we can choose to be free to escape the past, no matter what befalls us, and to embrace the possible. I invite you to make the choice to be free.